This episode is brought to you by Groove Washer, the best record cleaners and protective sleeves for your vinyl collection. Ask for the Groove Washer from your local shop or go to groovewasher.com. Discount code VinylGuide10. And now, on with the show.
Well, hello, everyone. Welcome to episode 369 of The Vinyl Guide, the podcast for record collectors and music nerds. And today we've got a very special conversation with Brendan Benson, who you may know from the Rock Contours or the Saboteurs, depending on where you're at in the world. Brendan is a prolific songwriter and has created two amazing solo albums. I think they're absolutely wonderful, Dear Life and Low Key. Dear Life came out in 2020, just as the pandemic was starting to eclipse everything in our lives, and Low Key just came out last week. Both albums are on streaming services. You can check them out now, and you can get the vinyl once you've heard how amazing they are. Dear Life is available at Third Man Records, and Low Key is available on vinyl at schnitzel.co.uk. Now today we talked to Brendan all about the early years, his records, the albums that influenced him, songwriting, working with Jack White and the Rock Contours, the collectible records of his career, playing with Jack White and the Bricks, the Gold Dollar days, songwriting, working at a record shop, recording Low Key, and lots more. And just a final word of note, if you're new to the Vinyl Guide podcast, we welcome you with open arms. And if you enjoyed this interview, we've got over 350 more available anytime simply by subscribing or following the Vinyl Guide in your podcast app. Episodes including Leland Sklar, bass player and collaborator for thousands of artists. Episode 362. Kenny Jones of The Who, The Faces, The Small Faces, and more. Episode 339. Alan Parsons. Episode 310. Billy Gibbons of ZZ Top. Episode 293. Eric Slick, The Wiseacre. Episode 270. Rick Nielsen of Cheap Trick. Episode 266. Earl Slick talking David Bowie, John Lennon, and more, episode 288, and tons of other episodes. The Vinyl Guide is free, it's fun, it's available anytime. Subscribe or follow the Vinyl Guide podcast on whatever podcast app you're using now, and enjoy. All right, with the upfronts done, let's get straight into our conversation with Mr. Brendan Benson.
What's up?
Fred.
What's up, Nate?
How are you, man?
I'm good, man.
You know, I was just waiting for you to log on, and this is the first time I had a chance to actually look at the cover of the new record. Like, I got the record, opened it up, threw it on the turntable. Are you smoking herb on the cover?
Yeah.
That's so funny.
Taken by my son. Photoed by my son.
Oh, is this a skate? It's a skate park of some sort.
Yeah.
Oh man. Okay.
I wonder if I gave him credit. I can't remember if I gave him credit. That was dumb.
Cover photograph, Declan Buck Benson.
Yeah, nice. Okay.
All right.
That's him.
He'll start getting the residuals now.
Yeah.
Cool. So where in the world are you today?
I'm home in Nashville, Tennessee.
Mm-hmm.
Specifically in my studio behind my home. But really, this is my home.
Oh.
But I sleep over there.
Right. You spend more time in the studio than any other place in the house.
Oh yeah.
This is the studio you recorded Low Key in. Yeah?
Yes. Well,
okay.
Yeah, there's a couple songs on there where some of them were recorded at my old studio at my old house.
Or I think I read somewhere this is recorded on an 8-track.
No.
Oh, okay.
No, that's recorded on just straight up Pro Tools.
Okay.
But not a whole lot of tracks. but not 8. All my old, like Lapalco, I think is that's 1-inch 8-track. That's an 8-track.
You know, as a songwriter and artist, tapes create a bit of a constraint and a commitment that you have, where with Pro Tools, sometimes it's easy to kind of do things over or be Mr. Perfectionist. What do you prefer?
Well, I think, like I say, I think Pro Tools is really great for me, for a person. I think for me and for maybe other solo artists, because I think with tape, you can do a lot of rehearsing. You can sort of know what what it sounds like first. So you can kind of get it right and then get it, perfect it and then record to tape, because tape is ideal. Tape sounds the best. I mean, I think it's undisputed. I mean, but in Pro Tools, I can I can't, well, since I can't really kind of flesh it out beforehand, I can kind of build it and then say, no, that's not it. Build it again. No, that's not it. Build it again. Okay, there it is.
Okay.
It's a process, and it's not the ideal. It's not a maybe always even a creative, like that creative of a process. But for a guy like me, solo, trying to do it all, trying to make it all sound like a band, a big production, but it's just me. It's great.
Now, with your songwriting, do you work on specific songs or ideas of songs for, weeks or sometimes even months? You let them percolate, or do you tend to kind of let it all come out and just focus, and it's taking its shape within a few days, and then you move on to something else?
Yeah, the latter, very much. I mean, I prefer it to be the latter. And quick, painless. Like those are the best songs that just come, that kind of roll off the tongue, and like, holy crap. Like, and then other songs are more of indulgences, or something, right? I don't know, like I think because I will kind of percolate. I'll let them simmer, and I'll kind of come back to them and tweak them. And sometimes kind of they end up ultimately I think they kind of end up sounding a little tortured, but they're always maybe the more, I don't know, they're almost kind of the more fun ones for me, just because it's it's the other one comes quickly, and I'm not even like aware of it, but then the ones
you're just following the muse, but
yes, exactly. And then in the end I'm like, huh, kind of thing. And but those the other ones are a little bit more fun for me, because I kind of start to tinker and try, different instruments and blah, blah, blah. And, just having a big idea, thinking, I'm going to make this, I'm really going to polish this turd.
Or, well, maybe another way to look at it is
to make this less turd-like,
Well, it's, maybe in that state you become a bit of a craftsman,
Yes,
you kind of,
which is the fun part for me, like,
right.
But it does in the end sound kind of a little crafted.
I'm assuming you're in a constant state of writing music. No? Okay.
Nah.
What inspires you? What makes a period of time?
I'm always looking. I'm always on the ready. I'm always waiting for something to come along and hit me and come to me, occur to me, or whatever. I mean, I definitely think about it every day, but I'm not always creating, producing, making stuff, In fact, I'm ashamed to say that I do more scrolling these days. I'm like, kind of addicted to social media, as it were. So
yeah, well,
it
feels like work.
I'm not proud. Yeah, it does this thing, kind of occupies your time really well for some reason. So it hits all the, I guess, kind of triggers those chemicals or something in your brain, apparently. I don't know.
Oh,
but no, yeah, it's not my it's I say that I don't really scroll all day long, but I definitely spend too much time, I think, on social media, which I think also social media is kind of a idea crusher, like you kind of, it's such a strange thing to scroll and to be kind of processing all these things really quickly, different things, bam, bam, bam. You go from, I don't know, well, whatever, you can see it all on social media. So I think it kind of does something to your senses and to your, maybe your idea factory, like, wow, that's a lot to process, and maybe, I don't know. I have just my theories, but that it's kind of the anti creative thing.
Well, I always think like being creative, and I'm not a songwriter or anything like that. I've hung around with plenty of them, but the act of being creative quite often requires boredom or some sort of catalyst to kind of push you in that direction.
Mm-hmm.
And if you get bored, you immediately have this tool to be able to turn your attention to.
Yeah.
So I don't know. That's the way I think. I have to take my phone and just stick it in my bag.
Yeah.
And it can't be around me. Otherwise, it's too easy for me to just,
Yeah.
you know?
Yeah. And I go through phases too. Like I'll be kind of on my phone a lot for, maybe, I don't know. I usually can rein it in after about a week. I'm like, all right, I feel gross. I feel yucky. I feel like, I need to come back to earth. But yeah, I mean, and right, being creative, I think boredom sometimes is, to be honest, I think it's harder if I feel bored. I think it's harder for me to create. I think boredom actually in my brain is like depression, so I think that kind of makes sense to me. It's harder for me to, I'm creative when I'm more, I don't know, energized, stimulated. Yeah, kind of. Yeah, it's definitely man, I'm having trouble with the words today. It's just a very, it's this active kind of state, to be in.
So it sounds like you always have your antenna up, waiting for the song or some inspiration to hit.
Totally.
Have you worked out? Yeah, have you worked out kind of what environment or what state that tends to happen more often? Yes, if I sit around the studio kind of waiting for it or trying to coax something, and it invariably it doesn't work, but no, the minute I go to my kids' soccer game and I'm standing there watching on the sidelines, it occurs to me a song, or whatever, an idea. Shit. I need to write this down. Where's my pens? I need paper. Oh wait, I got a phone, so that's usually, and then it, I joke with my wife about this too. Like I'll go, and they'll happen in kind of phases where I'll get really inspired and and creative and productive. And it always happens when there's so much going on, it seems, and contrarily, likewise, when nothing's going on, there's just also, the creativity's not there either. It's just when it rains, it pours, I guess. Growing up, did you have a lot of records around the house? Yes, tons. My mom and dad both had an awesome record collection. And they were young still, very much when they had me. They were, eight, I think my dad was 18 or something. And so he was still very much they were still very much into music. And, so I kind of inherited a lot of those records. They were also kind of stolen. People ran, along the way, just records vanishing, all the good ones, of course. But I got, growing up as a baby, I listened to, apparently, I'm told that I listened to a lot of like Roxy Music, and I think Stooges and Bowie and stuff like that. Like your parents were playing that around you and you were reacting. Yeah. Is that? Yeah. Okay. My dad said specifically, there's a story. It was quoted a lot in the press when I was kind of in the 90s or whatever, but because my dad, just when I was a baby, he said he would put me between the speakers, and because he loved music. My dad, he should have been the rock star, really. He is the rock star who never really played in a band, I think. Mm-hmm. But anyhow, he would blast music, he said, and I would react. I would love it as a baby. I kind of would, do my thing, dance around him, mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Loving it. So I think that that had to have had, an influence or an impact on me, I think. But music was always a big thing. It sounds like he valued music quite highly. Okay. Yes. And we've always related. Yeah. I mean, you saw that was the currency that he valued. And yes. Yes. That's a very powerful thing for a child to see their parents enjoy something, and then, and it's not surprising. A lot of musicians kind of have that same sort of thing. They see their parents responding to this music, and they see themselves as, wow, I can I can be part of that.
Yeah. I think you're right when you say value it, or, it's and it's the currency. Like, that's a great way to put it. I mean, music was valued highly in my house, in my growing up,
Mm-hmm.
My parents put a lot of stock in it, so, and still to this day, my dad and I still deal with that currency. We're still, we're sending each other songs, and because, he's in Florida or whatever, but text it, I'll just text him a song, and it's great. And that's almost all we do. I mean, occasionally we talk, but but I love it. Yeah, it's great.
Well, that's more than a lot of people have with their parents,
That's true. That's true. Yeah. Yeah.
So do you remember the first record or records you bought with your own money?
I do. It was the Cars' first album.
Oh.
I don't know why. I mean, I don't remember. I think it was Just What You Need. One of those songs on there. No, it was Best Friend. Shit. One of those songs I heard on the radio, whatever it was, the popular one. They had a few singles, I think, maybe, or maybe it was Moving in Stereo or something. I don't know, whatever. Prompted me to get the album, and then I was immediately obsessed with the album. Like, all these songs, oh my God, they're all so good. Like, I don't know. I just remember that when you just knew a single from a band,
mm-hmm.
and then you still kind of went on a limb to buy the album because you were hoping it was a lot like the single. And, I just remember that. And the Cars was no letdown. It was just like, yes. Oh, wow. And well, then I started getting into, like, I'm spacing on some of those earlier records that I bought, and I can only think of the worst ones, like Asia. I bought the Asia album, which is not, that's a great record. Iron Maiden, got into an Iron Maiden phase, loved those records. But yeah, and I was buying all that shit with my own money, and in fact, I spent a lot of money on records as a kid growing up, and then I worked at a record store, so I got all my records, like, for cost or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
Did that for, a few 3 or 4 or 5 years working at that record store. So I amassed just an enormous record collection, which was pilfered, just like my parents, which was, I moved to California and I couldn't take my records. So I left them at home, and my friends would each call me and say, dude, can I borrow your T-Rex records, or whatever. You're like, yeah, just make sure to return them, and a lot of them just never got returned. My record collection is pretty sad now.
Well, at least it went to friends.
Yeah. Well, yeah, some friends, right?
Former friends, I guess.
Yes.
So, do you still listen to records? Does the turntable still play a role in your daily life?
Yeah, not daily, but I do, and well, I got certain records I gotta listen to on vinyl. I mean, I'm not like I can think about them now, but if I think about, I want to listen to, like, the Cars or any Cars, I want to hear the vinyl. Like, I don't think when I hear, I might put those records on, but mostly it's streaming. I'll stream something, just, I've conceded that battle. Is that what you say? Like, just like, it sounds pretty good. And it's very, very convenient. And they make it's not even convenient. They make it a matter of course. So you don't have a choice, really. You just,
right.
So whatever, it is what it is. And PS, maybe for that reason, I listen to a lot of hip hop. I don't listen to much rock music these days. Because I think of the sonic, I think it's sonically, to me, it's superior. It's just so devastatingly awesome. There's nothing going on. It's just a kick drum, bass, and music and voice. But I listen to that, of course, streaming. I don't even know Do they make those records into records? I don't know.
I think they put it just about anything on a record these days because that's one of the few ways labels are making money.
But you got to do it right. You got to do it right, by the way, like that, like, I mean, I know, you're a vinyl guide podcast, but I mean, so you should know that there are some crap records like that kind of give vinyl a bad name. You know what I mean? Don't sound like very good, and or are pressed poorly, and because a lot can go wrong. A lot can go wrong, or aren't mastered for vinyl. Or
it also comes down to the just even the manufacturing. They could you could have every step in the chain works beautiful, and then there's one or during the stamping process, they're good for about 2,000 records, and if you get one in the first 50, you're in great shape. If you get one in the last 50, you may be disappointed. So
right, wow. Our record, my record, I say ours, Oliver and at Schnitzel, and because he's the one who pressed these, and got him and sent them to somebody in Germany to do direct metal mastering. I don't know this process. I'm not familiar, but my record sounds insane, man. I think I'm so impressed with how great it sounds. I mean, it's the best sounding record I've made. Like best pressed record. I don't know how to say that.
Sonically.
Yeah, sonically. But I was gonna say, so everything went smashingly. Everything was great, except the download card didn't get perforated. I wanted it to be perforated to make tips so you could roll a joint and use the whatever. And I mean, I guess what I'm trying to say is like a lot could have gone wrong along the way, and that was pretty minor. So it was a successful, record, I think.
Yeah. It's interesting you brought up the Cars, Iron Maiden. When I was young, those were my records as well. I was born in 69. I don't know what year you were born.
Cool. I'm 70. Yeah.
Okay. All right. So we're right around the same time. So on record, I remember just being fanatical about those bands and a few others. And then when CDs came around, purchasing those on CD, it wasn't as exciting. The life was kind of out of them. And I thought, mistakenly, oh, you know what? Maybe I've outgrown them. Maybe Iron Maiden is not kind of, maybe I'm ready to move beyond. Or maybe the Cars were there because it was my childhood brain was kind of responding to them. But then when I went back to vinyl, when I went back to get Peace of Mind or Candio on vinyl, it was like, that's where the magic was. It brought it all back.
Yeah, literally magic. Like, I don't know why. I don't know what that is. I don't know why. I mean, it's a sound. It's a, sonically superior, the most superior format, I think, but there is, just like, I think it's maybe we're still on some level, just a sense of wonderment. Like, how the hell does that happen when I put the needle on? Why, how's that happening?
Yeah.
I don't know. Whatever it is, it's just like, digital and CDs certainly did not convey that sort of feeling, at all. They were just flat, man. Terrible, like snapshots of songs. I don't know, just like, or just, two-dimensional.
So here's my theory. Now, analog, you've got the smooth sine wave, right? And it's moving the air in a particular way.
In a natural way too, by the way.
In a natural way, yeah.
Yeah.
With digital, like you say, it's a snapshot. So it's a series of steps. It's not a smooth sine wave. It's a series of steps. So I think our brains are having to do a bit of math to smooth that out. I suspect, and I don't know, this is maybe a PhD can take this idea and do something with it, but I think that, our brains, when we listen to a CD or digital, we're doing some math that we may not be conscious that we're actually doing.
Right.
And which kind of lends itself,
especially if we're familiar with the records. If we're familiar with those records previously, then then maybe we are like trying to fill in the blanks, kind of almost.
Okay. Yeah.
Or
Yeah. Maybe.
fill in the, you know what I mean? Fill in the pixels.
Yeah.
Smooth them out.
100%. And I think, one of the things I noticed about myself with CDs, I knew the first maybe 4 songs, but anything after track 5 or 6, it was like, I couldn't. And I thought maybe my brains just got tired from doing that.
Yeah.
Maybe I'm a little bit fatigued.
Wow.
I don't know.
Yeah. I mean, I'd buy that. I'd buy that for $1.
That's about all it's worth, quite frankly.
But no, I think you're right. I mean, I think that, however, I mean, you can also say that in a, say that a different way. And that I think that that digital music, I think is not, it's weird, man. I mean, that's getting pretty, I'm going to cut myself off right there. Cause that conversation too is kind of old hat. I mean, just like digital and, analog, but just suffice to say that analog's the superior.
I'm on your side on that,
right? I know you would be.
So now you worked at a record shop, so you are very familiar with the collectability of records.
Yeah.
And did you or do you fall into that trap a bit? Like, oh, I want that, but I want a first pressing of that record. Do you kind of have a bit of that?
I don't. Not so much anymore. But oh man, I was rabid when I was younger. I was like, I had to have all the records on this label, and I had to have, imported copies or whatever. Just I was a total geek collector. I'd have like, and if they changed color, if they changed the color on the album, I'd have to buy it again or whatever. You know what I mean? Like that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
But yeah, I love that collector mentality. We don't really have, my kids don't really have that. Like, I mean, other kids did baseball cards too, or collected Pokemon cards even, or whatever, later generations. I think my wife, she's like 15 years younger than I am, but she even, had like whatever collectible stuff. My kids do not. It's very strange.
Yeah. Yeah, my kids, I've got a couple of teenagers, and they really haven't gravitated toward collecting physical things. It doesn't mean as much to them. When I was young, if there was a song I liked, I had to get the record because that was my only way of listening to it.
Yeah,
I was beholden to the radio, to the DJ, and if they stopped playing that record, they stopped playing that song. It's like where do you see it, or where do you get it?
Right.
It always kind of trips me out, like The Godfather. When The Godfather came out in 1972, I mean, here we are, like perhaps the pinnacle of cinema. It came out in 72. It toured around for a couple of years, and then it just went away. And no one could see The Godfather for like 10 years before it finally came back out again. Or you had to wait until they showed it on NBC or something. This masterpiece that was just locked away because there was no vehicle to get it out. My kids don't.
Crazy.
Yeah, my kids don't have that. I mean, everything's on demand, so nothing really goes away. So they don't, they don't have, they're not, they
don't think like that. Yeah.
They don't think like that. Right.
Yeah. That's so interesting. Yeah. I never really thought about that way, but that's very true. Or you'd have to, get it on cassette, record it from the radio onto cassette or something. That was the first thing. And then it was like, you know what? Fuck this, man. I'm going to go buy the album. I got some money. I got some change. I got some change in my pocket. But so true. And then I had to own it too for another reason, which was it defined me, or it somehow, I identified with it, or it was like a collecting pieces of myself, and is what it felt like almost,
Yeah. That's interesting. So did you see yourself as a musician very early on? You knew your path was going to be with music?
No, actually, I mean, I was also into painting, like fine arts. I did like, I really like portrait painting, and I was learning to do that. I was doing okay, I think. And but I was also kind of playing music, and I was struggling with the two together. Like I couldn't, for some reason I couldn't reconcile doing both. I'm kind of like that. I'm one track mind or something. I don't know. I just didn't want to spread myself thin. I thought I should choose one and really focus on it, And I mean, it wasn't something I was thinking about all the time, but it was something I had thought. And then I had an opportunity, I think, a music opportunity. Oh, it was just to move to California. What was this was the opportunity. And so I did that. And then I left my paints. I took my guitar and I left my paints. Right. So, and I knew I was kind of going out there with a girl, and I knew she was, we were all into music and shit together. So I guess I let that kind of be the deciding, because that did set me on a course, Yeah. That's when I met Jason. In fact, I met Jason Faulkner. Yeah. Almost was a painter.
Okay.
sounds like a song title. I was almost a painter.
There you go. The muse is back.
I like that. Yeah. I'm going to write that down. Almost a painter. All right. I don't know. It's a little weird. Figure it out later.
Ladies and gentlemen, we are in the middle of the creative process.
Witnessing it live.
Yes. Write down something about smooth sine waves. That'll be the course.
All right, sine waves. I'll put that in there for you. Sine wave.
Yes.
Sine waves is actually that's a very lyrical word, I think. I like that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, because both those, I guess, potential professions, painting and music, would require full focus. You couldn't divide your time between the two. You would need to commit.
Yeah, especially the way I worked. Like, mm-hmm. It was hard for me to switch gears, because I think I'd just be so intense on each thing, in each way. I was painting, literally painting, practicing painting pictures from pictures and models too, even. And then at the same time, and then I'd do that for like a few weeks or something. And then I'd kind of switch it up to recording, I used to record songs. I was trying
mm-hmm.
to write all these songs, demos, I called them demos, and I don't know, I didn't know what for, but, mm-hmm. And that's, in fact, I was writing songs that were on my first record then,
A lot of artists I've spoken to, they will tend to distance themselves a bit from their early work. And, and when you look back at like One Mississippi, what are your thoughts?
Oh, cringy. So cringy.
Yeah.
Well, I kind of can't listen to it because, just the way I sound. Unfortunately. I mean, I think that's just whatever. It's just a personal thing. But of course I have great memories, and, and some not so great memories. Actually, that record was a struggle, it was like a struggle to make. But sonically, yeah, and I think there's no bass in it. There's no low end to it. So it's tough to listen to that one.
Well, that's the mix. But I mean, the songwriting. I mean, I guess, and it's healthy to feel a bit cringy, because that indicates growth.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, the songwriting, I'm quite proud of that part. I do think, I'm proud of, most of the stuff I do. I can say that. And I don't cringe at them, maybe occasionally some bad choices, but everybody, right? Everyone does that.
Mm-hmm.
But no, it's particularly, I think, my voice that is hard to get by. And normally I don't mind my voice too. It's not like, oh, I can't stand my voice. Just on that record, it's particularly, I think I kind of took on a little bit of an affect, and I don't, and I'm sorry I did that. I think it was kind of a current sounding like way to sing or something. I don't know. It was Trent is like, you know what I mean? And so I wish I had just been a little bit more straight, kind of just kind of sang it differently.
Yeah.
Sorry, this is turning into it. I'll start crying. I'm going to start crying here.
Don't be too hard on yourself. We can learn to forgive yourself, Brandon.
I do. I've forgiven myself. I am totally forgiven. but you asked, so I'm telling you. I don't want to listen to it. But like my second record, I would listen to that one. I like that one.
Oh, Lapalco?
Yeah, Lapalco.
You know, I'd listen to it as well, but the only vinyl copies are like $150. I don't know if you're familiar with the market on some of your earlier work. The vinyl of Lapalco, the alternative to Love, those are going for pretty big bucks.
Holy crap, that's kind of awesome. I mean, I hate to hear it, but I love to hear it. I don't know. It's cool. They're in demand. I like that part.
They're in demand. Do you think at any point you're going to revisit your catalog and maybe make it reissue it at all?
I would love to do all that. I would love to, but every record is a different label and a different story, like about getting the masters. You know, it's just, I mean, in fact, and where are the masters? Because I don't have the masters for my first record. I don't think they were. I don't know, man. So
One Mississippi. I thought that was Third Man put that out.
Was that?
Yeah, Third Man put that out, didn't they? On vinyl.
Oh yes, they did. They did later. Yes, Third Man. Yeah, as I was saying that, the words were coming out of my mouth, I was thinking that's not right. But just other records like Alternative to Love is like V2, and they are no longer. They were no longer. I don't know. There might be a new V2. Who knows? But and then a company bought them that was like a investment company, not even a.
Yeah.
So it's hard. It's really hard. And then of course I'm a little tiny blip on their screen. And I'm trying to be like, hey, man, can I put out my record? Can I, have my record or whatever? What are you doing with it? Because I have to have their permission, because they bought I guess they bought the masters,
mm-hmm.
like with the company. I mean, with all the assets,
Right. Yeah. And
I'm
like
just an asset. Yeah.
It belongs to some sort of faceless conglomerate. And you gotta, you gotta talk to a bean counter. So things, for instance, like What Kind of World, You Were Right. Do you control those?
Actually, yeah. What kind of world? Yeah, I think I do. I'm terrible, man. Because I mean, I think I do own those.
Mm-hmm.
That's ready made, and I have to. That's okay. Right. There's no license. There's no licensing or anything of that. Yeah, I think I do own those.
Okay.
So I can put those out, but I think those are easy to find, right?
Yeah. So let's talk a little bit about Rock Contours, because here in Australia, you're not known as the Rock Contours. You're known as the Saboteurs. What was your side of that conversation or understanding of how that agreement came together?
Yeah.
We'll be back after these messages.
Hey everyone, I'm here to talk to you about Seems Easy record sleeve repair strips. Ever find a record in a used bin where the vinyl is gorgeous, but the sleeve has this ugly split and is even falling completely apart? Well, that's okay. Grab it anyway, because with Seems Easy record sleeve repair strips, you can fix that right up. Seems Easy record repair strips repair seam splits from the inside, so it doesn't affect the appearance of a record sleeve, but it does make it functional again. With Seems Easy, records can now slide in and out like new. Turn a $5 used record into a $50 functioning collectible. Just ask your local record shop for Seems Easy strips, and if they're not in stock, go to seamseasy.com. That's Seems Easy with 2 Z's. Seems Easy record sleeve repair strips. Seems easy because it is. Oh, and hey, record nerds, don't forget to clean your records with the very best and safest record cleaner, the Groove Washer. Make your records look and sound their very best and store them with confidence using the new Groove Washer Groove Guard record sleeves. You gotta try this out. It makes a huge difference to the quality of your vinyl experience. Ask for the Groove Washer by name at your local record store and accept no substitutes. Or head over to groovewasher.com and use discount code VINYLGUIDE10.
All hail the Groove Washer.
That's groovewasher.com, discount code VINYLGUIDE10.
Now we return to the program, already in progress.
No limits.
So let's talk a little bit about Rock on Tours, because here in Australia, you're not known as the Rock on Tours. You're known as the Saboteurs. What was your side of that conversation or understanding of how that agreement came together?
Yeah. Well, there was a band in Australia, called the Raconteurs already. They were maybe a jazz band or something like that, or totally different music. They didn't have like a huge following, I don't think. I mean, like, I don't recall at the time, but I think maybe several hundred people, or like on a Instagram account or some shit. I can't really remember the specifics, but they weren't willing to share the name or not share the name, I guess, give up the name. I don't think sharing was an option. But anyhow, so we just decided instead, because they were weird about it. So we were like, screw that. Let's just call ourselves something different. We're not going to, pay these guys like thousands of dollars for this dumb name or whatever.
Right.
So we decided to call ourselves something else. And I can't remember. Oh, Saboteurs was on the list, was kind of on the list as band names. Saboteurs,
as the original.
Okay. Yes. And I wanted that. I was always voting for the Saboteurs for the whole world. I mean, like, all,
right.
the name of the band. But we went with Raconteurs, man. I don't know why. I was outvoted.
So you finally had your dream come true through this.
Yes. So I was so stoked. Yes. I was like, yeah, we get to be the Saboteurs. And, of course I have the t-shirt and everything like that to prove it. That's my favorite Saboteurs t-shirt. Those are my favorite. And those are so popular in the States. People are always like, see, I'm telling you, we totally should have called ourselves the Saboteurs, because people are always like, they don't even know who they don't know the band, or they don't even know the Raconteurs or that story or anything. And they comment on that. That's not sure. Where's that shirt from?
Yeah. Well, it's funny because when I bring a Rock on Tours record here to Australia, people are like, whoa, trip out. They only know them as the Saboteurs.
Yeah. Yeah. Right. Yeah. That's awesome.
Have you guys ever had any other communication with the band? It'd be interesting if they ever opened for you guys or something to that effect.
That would have been great. No, I don't know. Not that I know of. It was all done through management.
Right.
I don't think we ever talked. I don't think any of us ever talked to them. Okay. But it kind of seemed like not a very, I don't know. I guess I can say it seemed like, and then all day long. It felt like, yeah. I don't know. Yeah, never talked. We never talked to him.
It felt like a shakedown. Is that what?
Kinda. Yeah. Like but that's the obvious. I don't know. They're probably still going, and I don't want to talk shit about them. The Raconteurs in Australia.
They may be fantastic. I've never.
Yeah, they might be awesome.
Speaking of, we were talking about collectible records earlier. Some of the rare records of Rock on Tours, I'm thinking specifically of the Help Us Stranger vault version with the Butcher cover underneath. Do you recall the conversations around that?
You're gonna have to remind. I vaguely remember. Oh. What happened? We put our faces on.
Okay, so the story of the Beatles Butcher cover. Yeah. Like, okay, they have the Butcher cover, and then they had a bunch of different covers pasted on top of it because they couldn't put that cover out, or the retailers wouldn't put it out. So a lot of people since 1966 have tried to hunt down a copy of that Butcher cover that has the picture pasted over, and people peel it to get the Beatles Butcher cover, right? So it's a picture underneath a picture. And in the vault version of Raconteurs Help a Stranger, you guys did the same thing, including you had to peel off the stoplight signal, or wherever the walk signal. Yeah. And underneath it looked very much like the Beatles Butcher cover.
Yes. I remember this now. Yes. And I'm John Lennon or something.
Yeah. Yeah.
We all have really stupid faces.
Yeah. But it was fucking genius, because you don't tell anyone, and someone just worked out like, oh my God, if you peel it, it's just like the Beatles Butcher. I suspect that's a Ben Blackwell thing.
Well, the idea. Well, yeah, I can't say who the idea was from. Actually, it didn't, because it was a third man idea, kind of like I remember. I wish I could remember this. It'd be a great story, because I do remember. I remember when it was conceived. It was an accident, like something, or somebody showed that picture of me or something, or a face, or somebody had mocked that up or something at Third Man. I think that might have been it. And so we saw it and we're like, oh my God, this is great. We got to do it. Right. Like, I think that was the way it went. I don't know, man. Shit.
Yeah.
That's funny.
I think working with those guys, they are, really creative and always keen to take chances and do things that are really clever and not tell anyone. Like for the Upholsterers. Did you have any involvement or understanding of the Upholsterers?
I do know that one. I do know that story.
Okay.
And, well, like was it a recent record release that he? Well, okay. I guess I don't know. I know he put a record in a couch, right, or something.
Yeah, apparently there's like 100 couches out there, or at 98 they found 2 of these records. 100 records were pressed and put into couches. That's
Jack.
It's Jack, but the other guy, what's his name? Brian Muldoon. He actually was doing upholstery, and he stuffed records into, I think, around 100 couches. Who the hell is going to pull apart their couch and find a record?
I know, man. But that's just crazy. Well, and that guy, Brian Muldoon, I recorded him and his kids, the Muldoons. So there's a record out. I think it's a Third Man record, the Muldoons, and that's Brian and his kids, who were at the time like 8, 9 years old or something like that, maybe younger. It was pretty great, and they're playing this like really heavy music. But yeah, but sorry, we digress. The Upholsterers,
yeah, okay, because that's, to me. Did you have anything to do with that recording at all? Were you?
No, the Upholsterers?
Yeah.
I don't think so.
You were playing around the Gold Dollar days, yeah? You were part of the Bricks?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yes, playing on the bowling alley lanes. That's right, yeah.
Were you on any of those early records? The ones that they would sell at the merch booth at those gigs?
The Bricks?
Yeah.
Yeah, there's only one record, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And I'm on it. We did one show, maybe a few or something, maybe a couple, but I don't know. I feel like we only did one show.
Yeah, it's part of a vault package. So
yeah,
very curious on it. So with Low Key, this was an album conceived, developed during the pandemic. Was it kind of your COVID project?
I mean, I don't want to say it because it makes it sound gross.
Mm-hmm.
But yes, it was. I did put it together during the lockdowns. I mean, that's about all, I want to associate it with that. You know what I mean? Like, because I want it to just live on its own, and as a, it's just another one of my records. I mean, it's a little bit, if anything, it's kind of an extension of Dear Life. I mean, there's some songs, in fact, that were left off Dear Life, that are on it, some and tweaked a little bit or whatever the case is, and then other songs that were, well, just written
Right.
since, newer or whatever. But
Mm-hmm.
but yeah, I think it's more like an extension of Dear Life.
Now, being in the studio and really not a whole lot else going on, unable to tour, did you find yourself tweaking these songs to a greater degree than
just
you may
tweaking,
have?
period. Yes. Well, okay. The story is that I thought after it had been a couple years since Dear Life, and when I would be able to tour, this was the thought process.
Mm-hmm.
And so it might be a good idea to have, I thought it might be a good idea to have some new material just to kind of to tour Dear Life, really,
Right.
to finally get to do that. But I felt it was just better to have maybe an EP that I could sort of go out on, like just promote it, and I'm playing and blah blah blah. Instead of, because Dear Life had become kind of old. So, well, I thought that I would dig around and see if I had enough material for something, an EP or whatever. That's kind of how it all came about. And I also at one point thought it might be a covers thing that I would put out, like maybe, I don't know, an album of covers. And that's how that song All In, which is a cover of a Nasty C song, and
Jerry Rafferty,
thank you. That's how those got on there. Because I think I abandoned that idea because I thought, instead of doing a covers album, I think I want to I just want to cover a Roxy Music album in its entirety.
That would be fun to just re-record your face. Is there a perfect record in your mind? Is there a record that you're almost jealous that you didn't write?
Oh, there's so many of those. I wouldn't call them perfect records, but so many records that I'm so jealous about. But that's unrealistic jealous. I mean, it's like records that were made before I was even born, or by masters, just complete.
Yeah. When I say jealous, I don't mean with malevolence. I mean like with, but like, oh, that is just so,
yeah.
It aligns with your ethos and everything that you are so closely.
Man. Band on the Run.
Okay.
That's, one of my favorites, man. Just, top to bottom, just put that one on, listen to the whole album. So great. And a lot of Paul McCartney, to be honest, his solo stuff, early solo stuff. He's got a lot of solo stuff, doesn't he? But like Ram, that record, or Village Green Preservation Society. That's me top to bottom. I mean, that's just something that, like, that's my kink right there, man.
Right. Okay.
And oh man, there's so many that I can't think of.
That's all right.
But,
so if you got a news report that the asteroid was headed toward Earth and you got about an hour, you could put on a record, what would it be?
Oh man. Oh, it would be Bowie. It would be a Bowie album, first of all. And it would probably might be Low, or I might just, in fact, I think I'm going to go, I would do Ziggy Stardust. Because that's also my childhood. Like, I forgot, I should have mentioned that one. Like, I was obsessed with Bowie because of the cover. I thought that Diamond Dogs cover was crazy, and just all of his record, he was just such a weird thing. I was kind of attracted to him as a kid that, just based on the aesthetic, based on his album covers, really.
Because that's kind of all you had to go on. It was just kind of a bit of a mystery. You had to fill in the gaps yourself.
Right. Aside from some, a couple of music magazines, like you're only going to see him, or maybe in concert or on the record. gosh, man, those days were awesome. I'm sorry. I don't mean to sound like that, but I wish my kids could experience that, but it's a different world. Anyhow.
Yeah. Are you going to tour now? Now the world's opened up, you going to tour this?
No, now that I've said all that, right, now that I told you all that about touring and all that, I don't know. I don't know how much I can do or what I'm going to do. I keep saying this. I hope it doesn't sound like I'm whinging, but it's just too expensive for me. I'm lucky to break even. So, and I've got kids. I'm 52. I want to be with my family, and I don't want to leave them for weeks, months. It sucks,
Mm-hmm.
So, and I think I've earned that right. I've done a lot of touring in my life. I think I've, paid my dues, and it's only shooting myself in the foot, but it's tough to make a live. It's just tough to make a living doing music now. So I think I'm gonna concentrate more on producing and co-writing, kind of more studio work.
Do you have a next project already lined up?
No, not really. No, I have some ideas, but no, nothing. Just some ideas.
Okay, fair enough. All right. So, Brennan, I really want to thank you for coming on the show, and for a few reasons. Not only just your time, your wisdom, your information sharing, the laughs and everything, but also these records that you have, Low Key and also Dear Life. They're wonderful records. They really are. And I get a lot of records. I get a lot of music kind of sent to me, and I rarely get time to listen to them once, let alone multiple times. But these records have really played a big role in my life in the last few years. During the pandemic, we had Dear Life. And I think one of the things that I really appreciate about it is beautiful songwriting, but it also has a lot of these elements. It doesn't surprise me that you listen to a lot of hip hop, because there's some very kind of brave sonic choices in there that you don't hear in a lot of rock. I had a conversation with someone on the show, like rock. To me, rock music can be like Mexican food. It's the same ingredients, just folded different, right? But
I love that.
But when you start to hear these new kind of sonics and timbres and the chances you take, the effects on vocals and the electronics kind of in there, it really kind of takes it to a different level, and in my mind kind of pushes it in terms of its comfort zone, and gives, certainly for me anyway, it's like, okay, another idea, another place that this music could go. Yeah. And I think you do that really well. I think that's one of your superpowers, just kind of looking at your history and everything you've been involved in. You've got a very experimental ear, but with a solid foot on the ground for the foundation of the song and serving itself. So,
wow, this is awesome. Thank you, Nate. I appreciate that.
It's an absolute pleasure to have you on the show. I can't recommend enough people check out the new album, Low Key. I'll put links in the episode page where you get it, schnitzel.co.uk. Also find a copy of Dear Life. If you haven't heard Dear Life, unfortunately, I think that album was kind of passed over because everyone else was focused on the pandemic. So Dear Life, I would really encourage people to listen to. Both these records are on streaming services. Check them out, but I will, try before you buy. But, when it comes time to get them, schnitzel.co.uk and, or Brennan, I think BrennanBenson.com.
Sure. That works too.
So again, Brennan, you're welcome on the show anytime you want to talk records, anytime you want to share new music. Cool. I'm always keen, and I look forward to hearing what you have up your sleeve next.
I appreciate that, Nate. Thank you very much.
Oh man, what a funny dude. Yeah, I really enjoyed that conversation. And I tell you what, that album, Low Key, is incredible. Check it out on your streaming services. Just give it a go. And you could always pick up the vinyl at schnitzel.co.uk. And I want to throw in a plug for our Patreon page, patreon.com/vinyl guide. Now, these episodes are available up there, commercial-free, high-resolution, quite often extended episodes. Help support this podcast at patreon.com/vinylguide, and we thank you so much in advance for your support. All right, that's it for this episode of The Vinyl Guide. Thank you so much for tuning in. Please share these episodes on your social media. Put them on your Facebook or share them to different Facebook groups. That's always very helpful. Tweeting them out on Twitter, if that still exists, that's always cool as well. And of course, you can leave us a positive review on iTunes. 5 out of 5 or 10 out of 10 stars. Say something nice, make us blush. That is always appreciated. And we'll be back shortly with a brand new episode. So until we talk next time, get out there and buy some music, people. Cheers.
That's it for this episode of The Vinyl Guide. Send your thoughts to Nate at thevinylguide.com or follow or tag us on Instagram at Vinyl Guide. Until next time, keep spinning.